I just want one dude who just wants to live a life together and have kids and be married.
The biggest difference between gay dating and straight dating is who chases who.
Everybody is constantly looking for something better.
Believe me, y'all, it is rough. It's rough. It's rough. It is rough out here. Okay, ew, what the fuck? Dating is rough. It's hard enough to date as a straight person, but if you're gay, all bets are almost off. There are a whole new set of struggles that come into the mix as a gay person once you start dating. And we're going to highlight those struggles in today's video. But first, you guys know the deal. We've got to play the intro. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel where I react to videos online because I can never shut the hell up and the psycho craziness on the internet never stops. My name is Clarkson and I am a gay man, but I make content about a lot of other things, not just the fact that I'm gay. But this week, since y'all love when I talk about the fact that I'm gay, we're talking about it. Now, honestly, if I could choose to be straight, I would. I know it's a crime to say that. Not because I don't like being gay, but because dating wise, it is a numbers game. And because of that numbers game, it makes dating hard as a gay man or finding a monogamous partner that you share the rest of your life with. It makes it harder. I even asked you guys on my Instagram whether or not you believed dating was hard. The results were as expected. It's hard. I'm going to show you a video that explains why dating is a numbers game and why, if you were smart, if being gay was actually a choice, you would choose to be straight if your goal is to find somebody to share the rest of your life with. So let's watch the video here.
So we like men, 50% of the population, starting strong, but only like 10% of people are gay, and hitting on straight guys is not worth it, unless they're really hot. And then there's the whole monogamy thing. Gays are pretty split on this. So if you need monogamy, let's half it. And then just attraction and emotional compatibility. Let's say you work with a fifth of people, probably generous. We're all the way down here and we haven't even thought about interests. What if you're an extreme hiker like me or a big film buff? There's only gonna be like 10% of people who are down to do what you wanna do. And that leaves us with 0.05%. 0.05%. But, gratitude check.
Gratitude check? That makes me want to throw... I don't know why him saying gratitude check just triggered me, but ew. This is why when people say the gay community is small and all the gays know each other, we kind of do, because we have to search out potential dates and potential partners from places all over the globe because we are a very small minority, if we're being honest, or the people we can date are a very small minority. But that's not the main reason why dating can be hard for gay people. Our culture is entirely different than straight culture when dating. We have hookup culture. We have no masculine and feminine roles that are assigned to us by our gender. So we kind of have to figure that out on our own on who does what. And because men are extremely visual creatures, whether you like it or not, there are very high expectations for the way you look. I wouldn't say the beauty standards are entirely unrealistic, but they're very high. We're going to go through some of the common issues that at least I find with gay dating and gay culture and why it becomes hard to date if you're gay. But I do want to preface this video by saying one thing. If you are conventionally attractive, dating is going to be easy for you no matter what, whether you're gay or straight. If you are genetically unblessed, maybe you do your hair wrong like I used to do. Maybe you don't lift enough weights like I used to not lift. If you're not at your peak, if you're not doing very well, but you could be, get in the gym and do it, because this is a numbers game. I don't care if you're straight or gay. If you can look better and you want to find somebody to be with for the rest of your life, I do not want to hear you sitting and complaining if you're sitting on your ass all week. Get in the gym, start looking better. You know what? Get your finances together. Not because you need to worry about retirement, but because you're going to need to pay a plastic surgeon to get that face in check. I know that comes off harsh, but this is a message for everybody. And it's the truth. I don't make the rules. Men are visual creatures. If you're a gay man, you may be able to find somebody. I hope that you find somebody without having to do all of that. But if you're single and you want to increase your chances, especially if you have high standards, you better do everything you can to look as good as possible. But either way, regardless of how you look, there are still a lot of problems with gay culture, and those problems translate into dating problems. We're going to start with the first and obvious one, which is hookup culture. So hookup culture is defined by a culture built on the approved practice of engaging in hookups or sexual encounters between two or more individuals where it is understood that commitment, relationships, and emotional feelings are not expected outcomes. The two or more is interesting. I guess they really had to make sure that if you're participating in threesomes, that's included in hookup culture. So hookup culture is something that happens everywhere, but it is seriously ingrained in gay culture. I mean, even if you go to a gym near the city with a lot of gays, there's going to be people there that aren't there to get a good workout in. Well, maybe, but they're also there to hook up with someone. It's that bad.
Oh, sweetie, no, that's actual cruising.
Mommy don't know daddy's getting hot at the body shop doing something unholy. You guys know that song? He sat back while she's dropping it. She'll be popping it. Yeah, she put it down slowly. You guys know that song? Yeah, that's about gay men hooking up at the gym. I need to settle down. That's like literally, it's a normal thing. Like straight people obviously hook up in public. You see videos of that all the time, whether it's at like Mardi Gras or whatever. But like with gay men, it's a complex. Mommy don't know daddy's getting hot at the body shop doing something unholy. Okay? So I asked you guys on Instagram through a poll whether or not you thought hookup culture was out of hand. And again, everybody voted and said yes, that gay hookup culture is out of hand. And honestly, I think a case can be made that hookup culture is just out of hand, period. In society. But what was interesting about this poll is that when I looked at the people who voted no, a lot of the people who voted no were, and not all, but a lot of them were conventionally attractive people. And I think that that's because a lot of times it's harder for attractive people to find an issue with a problem they are tremendously benefiting from. Because if you're attractive, you're going to get everybody flocking to you, and it's going to be a nonstop amount of men or women coming to you. You see this on dating apps with straight guys. The top 10% of men are getting all of the swipes, where the bottom like 90% are getting nothing. So I think it's for the more attractive gay men, I think they're having a harder time coming to terms with the fact that this problem that they benefit from a lot is actually not working for them, and it's working against them in some ways. And that's what we're going to highlight in this video. Now, I will say, I'm going to be honest here. I'm not running around the gym looking for somebody's father who's getting hot at the body shop doing something unholy. I'm not at the gym looking for my next leg, but I'm also not Mary Had a Little Lamb nun. I'm a man. I have sex. And I'm not judging anybody who participates in hookup culture because I occasionally participate in it. I'm just going to be dead ass with you guys. So I'm not putting myself on a moral pedestal when I'm talking about this issue. I just want to recognize that it's an issue and see how we can approach it in a healthy way with balance. You see, there are people online who believe that hookup culture is entirely healthy. They will get mad at anybody who even just recognizes that this could be a problem. It could be a problem. And then they'll just talk about everything that they're doing in these hookups because they think this is just normal.
This one time I did a threesome with a homegirl. As soon as she hopped off, she had like a yeast situation. Like she had some cheese vibe like on the guy's neck. And he didn't notice, so he got in my head. And like I felt like it was in slow motion. He wanted me to like suck his and I was like, no!
No! Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my God. You see, those are the types of people. Ew, I just spit. This conversation is getting inappropriate. You see, there are people who think that's totally fine, who think it's totally fine and will go to bat for hookup culture and tell all their stories and make it a whole brand. But then there's some people who think that if you have sex before marriage, you are destroying society. And anybody having sex before marriage is contributing to the end of the world. Exhibit B.
We have warned for decades that hookup culture will create many catastrophic problems in society.
My name is Gabby. I'm 12 years old, and I'm pregnant as
Catastrophic problems. Catastrophic. Yeah, it is so catastrophic, Matt, that you chose to put a video after saying that is clearly someone acting with a pillow in their belly. Catastrophic kids just having sex before marriage, even though they're literally acting. But anyways, as you can see, there's extremes on both sides when it comes to hookup culture and whether or not to engage in it. But the truth is that neither of them are right and neither of them are wrong. It's a little bit more nuanced than that. It's both good and bad bad for you, because two things can be true at once. On one hand, not having sex at all as an adult does have negative psychological effects, as you can see here. But then on the other hand, having a bunch of non-committed sex as an adult also has negative psychological effects. So it really does depend on, one, the person, the individual, and two, it kind of depends on how extreme you are with your perspective on this issue. I believe the more extreme you get, the more risk you have in seeing problems arise from that decision to either not partake in having sex or to have sex with a bunch of people nonstop like a fucking monkey. For myself personally, I'm not going to be an incel. I'm not going to be one of those men who just sits around and like
online in their mom's basement and gets mad at women or gets mad at other people because they're having sex and I'm not.
But I'm also not going to run around humping and fucking everything like a monkey or a Jack Russell who just hit puberty. Woof! I'm not going to do that because I recognize that both behaviors can be unhealthy. So while I do hook up with somebody every once in a while, I am ultimately looking for a partner. And I think that's where the clear distinction needs to be made, is that I understand that I'm partaking in this activity, but I also understand that if I find somebody who can potentially be my partner, my eyes need to be open so I don't miss that opportunity. But that's what it comes down to, though. If you fully engage in hookup culture, it can lead you down a very hedonistic path that values short-term pleasure over long-term contentment. And we see that a lot in gay culture because they're so focused on receiving that short-term pleasure that they miss out on something that could potentially turn into a long-term fruitful relationship, which makes dating hard for the person who doesn't necessarily want to partake in hookup culture or only does it every once in a while, because you consistently come across people who are so in it that they are not able to see when they have somebody in front of them that they should be dating or should at least try to date. But it's also worth noting that a lot of gay men are undiagnosed sex addicts. We have to be real here. Undiagnosed sex addicts. It's common to find gay men who spend every weekend on sex apps, not dating apps, sex apps. If they're on dating apps, they're doing it for sex. They're at bars looking for their next conquest. During the week, they're going to the gym and probably finding a conquest. They're consistently online looking at porn, looking at influencers, or if they're good looking, probably influencer friends that they can sleep with. It becomes an addiction because sex is a form of pleasure and addiction is derived from short-term pleasure. So a lot of these men who are just involved in hookup culture aren't necessarily involved in hookup culture. They're sex addicts. And I've seen this firsthand. I've seen it destroy a lot of people's relationships because these men who are addicted, they do want monogamous relationships. They'll admit to you that they want monogamous relationships, but they are unable to control themselves because they have a serious addiction. It goes unnoticed because we're men and we're like, oh, well, we're sexual creatures. We should just have sex. A lot of times these men are addicted. But not only can the sex become an addiction, but the pursuit of that sex can become an addiction too. These men will get all caught up in pursuing something new in the same way that like you get high when you're first starting to date someone, you get that honeymoon phase. I think after a while it gets shorter and shorter with the more people that you've been with, but these men will get caught up in that the minute it fades away, they're on to the next because they never actually committed to someone. So then they just keep going around looking for the next person to give them that euphoric high that really what they're doing is just hopping from man to man, never actually finding the person that they're with or never putting in the work to find a relationship that they would be content with because they are addicted to that pursuit. It's all about the pursuit of pleasure when it comes to hookup culture. And if you're not conscious of that, you can easily fall into it and you'll end up in your 30s, 40s, and 50s single. And that's why a lot of gay men in their 30s, 40s, and 50s are still single because they're still caught up in that culture of sex and pursuing short-term relationships that they weren't able to find the person to settle down with, or they passed that person a long time ago when they were in their hookup phase. But I don't believe that hookup culture is extreme in the gay community because we're gay. Hookup culture is extreme in the gay community because we are men. If women gave it up as easily, which they're starting to, you would see hookup culture be as prevalent as it is in the gay community. But because women are women, that's why the gay community is a little bit different. In order to have a successful relationship as a gay man, I think, and in order to overcome this, it takes being a very mature man who is not controlled by his sexual desire. That is not an easy task. That is not an easy thing to accomplish. You don't have as many opportunities, but learning to have control over your primal urges like that is not easy. So I think in order to truly find a fruitful relationship that you can be happy with in the gay community, it does require a lot of maturity. And the thing is a lot of people are just not mature. So that's why we see this behavior be so prevalent amongst the gays and not as much the straights, which it is happening a lot in the straight atmosphere. But women are kind of gatekeeping that behavior from turning into what's happening on the gay side of everything. But either way, this hookup culture does make dating more challenging. Now, one of the last points that I want to make regarding dating being a little bit harder when you're gay is that we don't have the traditional gender norms that determine who pursues who. And this video here that I'm going to show you clearly outlines what I'm about to say, probably better than I could say it. So let's just go ahead and watch it.
The biggest difference between gay dating and straight dating is who chases who. In straight dating, it's pretty clear cut. Like, we all know the man chases the female, and there are so many really established norms. Like, girls are always saying if he doesn't pay for everything on the first date, like, that's a huge red flag, it's over. But gay dating is way more ambiguous. Like, some people think the top should chase the bottom, some people think the more masculine one should chase the more feminine one, and some people think it should be equal.
Now, this is not necessarily only a problem for gays, because a lot of women and men don't conform to these traditional gender norms nowadays. But I do think it makes it easier if you're straight to have this baseline level of understanding of whose responsibility is what going into dating. It does make it a little bit easier, but that doesn't mean you have to conform with it. For example, I went on a date a few months ago and everything was going really well. And I'm the type, I can be pursued or I can pursue. I will pursue if I find it necessary, but you know, if I see that somebody likes to pursue, I can take a back seat. To me, it doesn't really matter, and it opens my dating pool to more guys, whether they're masculine or more feminine, whatever. We were on this date, we had great conversation, we both were obviously attracted to each other. Then the date went by, said our goodbyes, nobody kissed one another, because I was getting the vibes this whole date that this guy wanted to pursue me. The whole time I was getting the vibes that he wanted to pursue me. So nothing really happened, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess he's just not interested. And a few weeks go by, he messages me and goes, hey, I was really interested in you. Do you want to go out again? And I was like, yeah, like, what took you so long? And he was like, honestly, I thought that you were going to pursue me. And I was like, interesting, because I thought that you were pursuing me. So this whole miscommunication could have potentially made me, you know, not see this guy. Now, obviously it didn't work out. There's just some other things that went on with that one. But the thing is we could have never had a second date if me and this guy didn't end up communicating. When I say that who chases who can create problems and make it a little bit harder to date, it actually does create problems and make it harder to date, quite literally. So what's the solution to all of this craziness? What's the solution to being able to date? Are we just all doomed to a life of being single and we're going to be 50 years old alone with no kids or nothing? No. From my experience, just talking about some of the things that I brought up today, there's two solutions to these problems, and that is communication and balance. It really is that simple. If I would have communicated on that date, and if he would have communicated on that date, and we would have been clear about what our intentions were, how we felt about each other, we wouldn't have had that miscommunication. Now, if gay men looked at hookup culture and tried to approach it with a little more balance, then I think they wouldn't be missing out on potential relationships ending up single in their 50s. It's okay to be an adult and have sex every once in a while. There are psychological benefits to it, like we mentioned before, but it really shouldn't become your pursuit in life if you want to find a long-term monogamous relationship. If you don't want to find that, then by all means, go and find whatever you want down the street in a rest stop. I don't know. Do whatever you want. I'm not judging you. I'm not better than you. I'm just saying my goal is to find a long-term monogamous relationship. And if my behaviors are not aligned to that, then I need to check myself and make sure I'm approaching them maturely and with balance. So while it may be rough out here for us gays to start dating, or for anybody for that matter, because these problems do transcend just gay people. They're just more prevalent in gay culture. It is not impossible, although I am single, so we'll double check in a few years. Maybe this could all be horseshit advice because I'm single. Don't listen to anything I just said. Maybe listen to somebody who's in a successful relationship. No, I'm just kidding. But it could be bad advice. I don't know. We'll see if I find a relationship. We'll see. Who knows? But I appreciate you guys watching this week. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. I try to post videos every week on the weekend, so make sure you're keeping your eyes peeled on Saturdays and Sundays. I will see you guys next week.